Okay, Jennifer, welcome back on
Hello,
stage.
everyone.
No, well, honestly, I mean, I can't believe this is the end of the Vienna Migration Conference. We put so much energy into preparing it, especially also Marlin. And yeah, it's quite impressive that we're at the end, and I'm very happy to have a bit of a reflection with you now, a very brief one, on what actually happened over the last 1.5 days. And I wanted to ask you, well, in the meeting with so many different issues, what stood out to you?
It was my first VMC, so it was my first experience of the different side conversations and the diversity of actors, Southern partners, you know, a lot of the discussion on EU, but also through the global panel and the regional, looking at, you know, the priority issues for others. What stood out for me, I think, yesterday was on the climate issue. I think Gaia Vance really brought forward a challenging set of concepts and looking at very polarizing issue. It caused a lot of buzz in the coffee break. The first coffee break was full of people talking about how 4 times more people are migrating because of climate change and natural disasters than from conflict. And I think that's, you know, kind of a statistic or something that sticks in the mind very easily. And having had the privilege today to sit with regional partners and have Pakistan and Egypt both referencing, you know, in the case of Pakistan, very recent and terrible flooding, but also Egypt anticipating moves from the Horn of Africa, the climate issue seems very real.
Yeah, I think what stood out to me, I mean, it certainly sparked discussions, this first discussion that we had, but what stood out to me is really that she said, well, we cannot wait another 10 years. I mean, we have to act now. And that I know that how difficult it is to get the political discussion moving on it. And it's not a new topic, but I can really hope that we will start to take real measures with a view to that. And I thought she really put the finger on that. Is there anything else that stood out to you?
I mean, on my side, I think the other one is maybe looking a little bit at this nexus between humanitarian crisis and migration. I started my career in Brussels very many years ago looking at humanitarian policy, and what was very in vogue at the time was linking relief, rehabilitation and development, LRRD, and it was kind of a buzz phrase, and I understand it's back. So if you stay in any sector long enough, you know, the policy cycles go round. But I think it was reassuring to hear Beata Geminder say that there is much better data now, there's much better early warning, but I think the challenge is still in this nexus to move beyond trying to only deal with, you know, root causes in one silo, and you have your Ministry of the Interior people with a very migration management perspective. You have your development actors with different budgets, and it's about joining up all of the dots. And for me, it's you know, really about looking at the early warning, the data that we have, so that we're dealing at the right time, both morally and otherwise, with the humanitarian issues rather than dealing with the migration management issues later. What about you, Sarah? What was?
Well, I think we really, for me, what stood out is I think we started out really hearing, well, we cannot do it alone, and that aspect of working together, cooperation, partnership, really went throughout the conference. I know that used to also be a title of the Vienna Migration Conference, but it's still something that stands out. We had the Minister of Interior of Moldova saying that we have to really work together to redesign European crisis response mechanisms to include migration. We have to look at this combining solidarity and security, that they go hand in hand. And that, of course, also means working together. We had the representative from the US saying, well, for our comprehensive migration management approach, and if we really want to make sure that we can protect refugees and those in need of protection, we need to work with our partners in Latin America. And that just continued. I mean, we also had the African Union, of course, saying all the challenges that we face, we can only face them together as African Union, but we also depend on the partnership with Europe to address major challenges such as climate change, but also food security and combating terrorism. And then, of course, also, and on the EU side, Luigi Soreca mentioned that Team Europe is, I mean, it sounds like a nice concept. It is a nice concept, but actually it's a necessity, and we can only achieve actual results if we work with a Team Europe approach. And I think also Vice President Skinas highlighted that it says a bit more firmly, if Team Europe acts as one, we are unbeatable.
That's nice. That's nice. I mean, for me, I think as a kind of a last takeaway, the words from Andrew Rose resonated very strongly with me. I'm working in support of some of the initiatives on the talent partnerships, and nobody should have to choose between talent and vulnerability, and that really resonated because given the demographics in Europe, given the need for pathways, complementary pathways, and hopefully looking at complementary pathways in the context as well of the new relationships that the European Commission and member states are trying to negotiate with third countries, where it's triple win. We really should, I think, also look at those that would otherwise find themselves under protection and potentially stuck. So for me, that was also something that I would like to, take forward after the days here. Yeah. And Sarah?
Anything else in particular that you say, oh, I remember that?
I think I'm going to throw that ball back to you.
Oh, fair enough. No, for me, it was just one more point that actually is something that I think we all know. We know education is key for integration. State Secretary Özdemir said it. I think it doesn't really need further explanation. But during our lunchtime event on combating trafficking, I really loved how the trafficking survivor said, well, education is so important because it doesn't only mean that we learn about, that we don't fall victim to these elements so quickly because we understand the processes. It's also important because it gives us the words to actually speak. And for me, what I would add is it actually also gives you the words to explain to policymakers what needs to be done. Because it is a special language that we speak, and in a way, if then somebody can speak to policymakers in that language, then that's the big added value, and I think that really can create change.
Great.
Well, I think with that, that's us. And now I have the really great pleasure to hand over to our Director General, Michael Spindelegger, for the closing remarks of this Vienna Migration Conference 2022.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues and friends, dear panelists and presentators during these 2 days. This is the last duty for myself, just to conclude and to end up with a positive note. I think VMC is always a forum where you can present your thoughts, where we hear from so different angles what is ongoing, and it's not possible, of course, to summarize in any way. But what I would like to do is to give you some feelings from this conference. I think we all agreed this is a polycrisis situation. And in a polycrisis situation we never had after the Second World War, we have to look forward how to come to common sense. And this is not an easy task, of course, we all know. But normally there is an old saying, during crisis, the family comes together. Let's hope that we feel that we are one family, because I think the challenges are so enormous and so many different things we have to manage that we really find a common ground. So from my point of view, there have been 3 major issues that we have to take away from this conference. The first one was, there was a wide agreement that we need to better prepare for crisis and crisis prevention. I think difficult situations like this, they develop faster than in the past, And most of the things are unexpected that happen. So there is really one of the consequences that we have to redesign our response mechanisms to make them react quickly, work across different sectors, and focus on swift results rather than complicated processes. A second one is we cannot do anything without partnership. No country can develop and implement a reasonable migration policy alone. Such a policy will always require good regional cooperation, sometimes more. This definitely applies to the effects of global warming. I think a topic that was discussed broadly within so different panels. And of course, it is on us to decide whether it makes a positive contribution or not. And the third and last one I would like to mention is times are also changing in the area of labor migration. We have learned that the global hunt for talent has become quite fierce by now. We have also heard that a robust approach towards irregular migration is a precondition for broader political acceptance of labor migration. And I think the time has arrived to bring together the existing philosophies, experiences and learnings and start to build more beneficial legal migration pathways. Ladies and gentlemen, I think one of our panelists, Minister Cikotic, made yesterday a statement that I would like to quote. He said, "The only solution for complex migration challenges is a comprehensive approach that is translated into simple action and works on the ground." I think this is quite everything we have to say about this. And I really appreciate that Minister Cikotic was a panelist this year, like in the last year, and he contributes also a lot in our conferences. I think I would like to end up by thanking our supporters and hosts, the Organization for Refugee Services from Switzerland. Thank you very much, Jörg, also to be present here. The city of Vienna, hosting the last day in the evening, and many others. I would like to thank, of course, all who have been on the panels, who have been presenters, discussants, for sharing their know-how and insights with us. And if you allow, I also would like to thank our team from ICMPD, because so many of our team have been engaging during months to make it happen that we can have such a great conference. On the top it is Lukas Gerke, my Deputy Director General, and of course Marlene Frankenhäuser. Where is she? Here she is. She was always the friendly face announcing what comes next. Thank you very much for that, Marlene. You have done a real great job. Give them a big applause. Thank you very much. So what remains is to wish you a good journey home, to enjoy a little bit the lunch, and of course, to see you next year here to the Vienna Migration Conference 2023. Thank you very much. The conference is closed.